World of Warcraft: The Voices Within, a new short story collection available for pre-order. So you can get this thing off of Amazon if you click the link here. I can link this in the chat for you guys in a second, but it's $29.95. Not bad. It's like $30 little short stories book, and it'll be available on November 5th. So if you're interested in WoW lore or deeper dives into WoW lore, check this thing out. They gave a little hint as to what is coming in this book, and there's some interesting stuff. Specifically, the book has stories about Anduin, Gazlo, Thrall, and of course Illyria. So let's look at what these stories are about and see if it reveals any hints of things to come in the War Within. They got a short summary here about each. So for Anduin, on his current story, Anduin has returned from the Shadowlands. We already know that. He has chosen to not retake his throne, leaving it to Turelion. Now, Anduin's story obviously continues, we know in these short stories, it looks like, with his struggles with the light, right, and his inability to find it. And what's interesting is Anduin seems to be seeking solitude. Seemingly his plan was to never return to the kingdom. But his peace will be shattered, as the notes say here. In some ways, Anduin's story mirrors his father. Now, I hadn't thought about this, but this goes into some detail about how Anduin's story mirrors his father. And if you don't know about Varian's story, originally, he had left the kingdom, right? He wasn't there. He was actually out on, I believe, some type of adventure or war front or something. And eventually, he gets captured. Onyxia splits his soul. And Varian kind of loses himself for a while, right? Never to return to Stormwind, seemingly. But eventually, he was able to, piece himself back together and fight Onyxia off and retake the kingdom of Stormwind. And that's kind of what's going on with Anduin. That's what's described here in this paragraph, is that Anduin's kind of being faced to kind of piece himself together, right? Deal with the things that he has dealt with, or that he did in Shadowlands, but also refine his connection with the light. Now, me personally, I've talked about this a little bit. I think Anduin's connection with the light is going to be restored in a different way. It's going to be a new light. Yeah, yeah, King Julie. Yeah, boy, it's going to be restored in a different way. We know that Anduin's going to be spending a lot of time in Hallowfall, and it's looking like he's going to rediscover the light while there, but a different light, a flaming light, a true light. We'll see how Anduin takes to this stuff, and maybe, once he has discovered this new light, retakes the Kingdom of Stormwind, but will Turelion readily give up the seat? I don't know. There could be a struggle there. Yeah, self-discovery. That's right. That's the story of Anduin. I would honestly say more interesting than the story of Anduin is Gazlo's story. I was not expecting a goblin fleshed out storyline, but Gazlo is getting an entire little short story in this book. So if you don't know, Monte Gazlo was appointed to be the trade prince of the Bilgewater cartel, or the leader, as they say, of the Horde goblins, near the end of Battle for Azeroth, replacing Jaster Gallywix, who left the Horde. Now, Gallywix is off doing God knows what. It's been very interesting. Anduin, the new Arthas. He's got some struggles going on, but Anduin seems to be more grounded in this world and not going too far with what he's doing. So maybe Anduin becomes the Lich King. I wish. I think that'd actually be badass. But as for Gazlo's story, he is basically kind of trying to reunite and regroup the goblins, right? In the past, Gazlo led the neutral goblin town of Ratchet, and for many years was not aligned with either the Alliance or the Horde. Most recently, he has worked with the Horde chief engineer. The short story seems to tackle Gazlo's role as leader as he works to help inspire the goblins of a struggling city. Yeah, so this is, they go on to say here, this is much in contrast with Gallywix's way of leading, right? Where he was basically very selfish and using a lot of resources to build his giant mansion, right? With his face carved in it, and the giant cannon and everything else. So it's very interesting to look at this stuff and wonder, why are we digging into goblin lore? There's got to be a reason behind it. Icewater, good morning. Love the YouTube content. Had to come check out the stream live. Thanks, man. Welcome in. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we're talking about Gazlo and what this could mean for the War Within. We did see some hints recently about how the Titans, right, Titan creations will be revisited, but so would original Void creations, or creatures that were somewhat born of the Void. Now, we know the difference between trolls and what humans, gnomes, and dwarves are, is humans, gnomes, and dwarves were creations of the Titans that were, cursed with the curse of flesh, and eventually became what they are today. But goblins are original denizens of Azeroth. Or so we think. Maybe there's some type of weird void god thing that was left over. Who knows? But I would bet if we're getting Gazlo's story, right, a deeper dive into Gazlo's story here, that we're going to get some origination stuff coming out about how the goblins came to be. We know that they had the whole Kazhamite stuff, and it made them smart. They dealt with that. We know that lore. But what we don't know is maybe, what started these original life forms on Azeroth? Was it a loon? Was it could it have been Eonar? Or was it some kind of void mischief going on? I think we're going to dive deeper into that stuff and figure out a lot about the goblins, maybe the trolls, and other original races. So this story, honestly, when I saw they're digging into Gazlo, this was the most interesting to me of all of these. The next story that's in here is Thrall and Durac. If you don't know who Durac is, he is the son of Thrall, and he is having his coming-of-age story. And we last saw Thrall and Durac during the Heritage Armor questline, where he was a young boy, still just a few years away from his coming of age. At the time, Durac voiced a worry about his expectations that he was already facing as the son of the two most powerful shamans in Azeroth. He's not sure if he wants to be a shaman. This line directly from him: everyone expects me to be a shaman like my parents. What if the spirits don't call to me? What if I don't want to be a shaman? What then? Interesting. It's almost like an opposite YouTubian. Maybe it's like an opposite version of what happened with Anduin. Remember, Anduin was kind of lost with his whole class search, right? For a long time, it felt like Anduin was supposed to be a warrior like his father, delved into the light, became a priest, put on some armor and became a paladin. At one point was a freaking Death Knight in Shadowlands, and now he's trying to find his way back to the light. There's interesting storylines, parallels between what we saw with Anduin and what we're gonna see, it looks like, with Durac. Orc players left Durac feeling a little bit better as his rites of passage that he will be expected to perform one day, but the story about his coming of age still promises to be an emotional one. Hopefully not too emotional. We had enough of that already, especially for Thrall. Though his true name, Goel, Thrall's more recognized name, which means slave, was given to him by his human owners. We know that. Thrall's connection to his people and cultures has been hard earned. Thrall even left the Horde for a time and seemed happy living a simple life with his family. Yeah, he was in, what was it? Nagrand. Yeah, who wouldn't be happy in Nagrand? It's still one of my favorite zones. Durac, his firstborn, must represent everything Thrall longed for: a life among his people, a family of his own. And so we can only imagine how difficult it will be for Thrall to face learning how to love and let go. This sounds like a Dragonflight storyline. I hope it doesn't get too lovey-dovey. But anyways, interesting stuff between Thrall and his son that we're going to get to flesh out here. Some interesting lore. And he's going to pick a class. Maybe not Shaman. Who knows? If they're nerfed at the time, maybe he just doesn't want to be a Shaman. Right now, Elemental's doing pretty good, though. So is Enhancement. Enhancement's doing great. Moving on to Illyria and Eretar. Another parent, child storyline that we're going to get here. So this is interesting. Another story about a parent and a child. Yes. If you don't know who Eretar is actually an interesting character. He is a half-elf, half-human, right? He was born from Tyrellian and Illyria, getting it on. She birthed that thing. That's a half-human, half-elf. I always thought that eventually Eretar was going to get a new model, because right now he just uses the Blood Elf model. If you see him in-game, he's just a standard Blood Elf. He hasn't gotten a new model yet. I would guess if we're going to get storylines specifically featuring him, we're finally going to see what Blizzard imagines a half-elf, half-human would look like. And I hope, eventually, there would be a new playable race. I don't see why not. There's Illyria and Tyrellian are not the first ever human and elf to get it on. That shit been happening nonstop. Damn it, all the Windrunner sisters basically love human men. I mean, who wouldn't? Look at us. But there are a lot of human elves running around, so I don't see why we can't get, that as a choice, maybe. Now, of course, there's a small population, but who knows? They start to do it with each other, and then you got a bunch. Anyways, this is a parent-child story. Illyria Windrunner's story is about wanting to connect with her son, Eretar. It's easy to see why she might struggle with that. Eritar is just a child. She was just a child when his parents left. Yes, so there was 1,000 years war, of course. 1,000 years passed for Illyria and Turellian when they were in the Twisting Nether, fighting with the Army of the Light against the Legion. But while they were gone, their son Eritar aged and became a man. So they returned to find, Eritar not only had become a man, but had become a paladin, right? A practicer of the light. Interesting how he'll feel about, what his mom has done. Of course, he'll be able to connect with his dad on the fact that they are both paladins, both worship the light. They're very in tune with that. But his mother, Illyria, she has embraced, an opposite magic, right? One that likely Eritar doesn't like. What's more, while Turellian has remained steadfastly aligned with the light, even becoming infused with it, Illyria has since turned to another source of power, the void. Though most who dabble in the void fall to the whispers, we know that Illyria trained under the ethereal, who taught her how to basically resist falling into complete madness. Even so, Illyria's choice has naturally confused someone like Eritar, who is devoted to the light. In Horrific Vision of Stormwind, a version where Illyria is completely consumed by the void, was shown to murder both Turellian and Eritar. Eritar himself must feel that this vision has a chance to come true, for as long as his mother is aligned with the power he believes to be pure evil. Yeah. So interesting. We got two, child-parent storylines getting told here, and the Illyria one will be interesting. Most definitely. We'll see. We'll have to see how that plays out. And I think eventually we're going to see like some kind of microcosm of what we're going to totally see, and that is a balancing of things, right? It's not about no void, no light. There's got to be a balance, and I think we're going to see that manifest in the relationship between Illyria and Eritar going forward. And maybe get a new model? Come on, Blizzard, give the man a new model. Show us what a half-human, half-elf is actually supposed to look like. Really cool stories here. I'll link this in the chat. And you guys can check this out. Again, it's only $30 if you're interested in ordering it and getting these stories coming out November 5th.